Doormat. Can you shut the door?
Hi, my name is Matt Eubanks, Plant Engineering Pipe Shop, and I'm here to show you some ropes and some of their uses. I've chosen 5 different ropes here to show you some of their uses. And obviously there are many types of ropes. You can walk into Orchard Supply and see maybe 30 ropes hanging up on the wall, and anywhere from circus rope to nice braided strand that you use, or even rope for hanging up your clothes on a clothesline. 5 ropes I've chosen right here are used in many different facets, and I'm just going to explain to you some of the different ways they're used. Hopefully the objectives I'm trying to meet here are so that after this presentation you'll be able to choose 2 ropes for a little given task that I'm going to tell you. You might be able to choose 2 of the proper ropes for this given task. Hopefully you'll be able to identify at least 2 of these ropes just by looking at them, or what their use is, and maybe be able to tell me some of the different uses of the rope after I make my presentation. So, on to the ropes here. These 5 ropes right here I have. First rope is 3-strand manila rope. It's 3/4 of an inch thick. The workload for this is really strong rope, good for lifting all different types of aspects. It can hold a workload of 972 pounds. You'll see this lots of times. I've seen it actually in Boy Scouts using it. We made footbridges with this type of stuff and walk across, and it's really very hard and rough on your hands. It's made from a back of fibers, and a back is sort of akin to a banana plant. And if you ever take a banana peel and pull it, you can pull it off with little tiny strings. It's similar to that, and they make rope out of it. Actually, this stuff, the back fibers, can also be used for fabrics. This knots really well. You can take it and make a knot, just tie it. You can get it right there. Tie it, and as you can see, it cinches down real tight. It holds real well. Sometimes you'll even see this for climbing ropes. You'll see ropes on playgrounds with a bunch of knots tied in them so kids can climb up them. It's not very easy on the hands because of the little fibers sticking out, but it's sturdy and it doesn't break easily. It resists sunlight real well. You can just leave it out in the sun, leave it hanging there, hold something on it, and it really won't deteriorate. I mean, it will, but not. It takes a pretty good while for it to deteriorate. But it's really good for, it's heat resistant. Actually, I've seen this used wrapped around wires in some less, let's say, specific construction industries where it's used to cover wires. Because in hot wires it doesn't melt real easy, as far as some of the other ropes where they might melt when they're in contact with heat. Any questions on this? I'll pass this around. You can.
But this would burn.
Yes, it would burn. Most any ropes will burn. It just depends on the material they're made of how fast they'll burn. Like that rope right there, I've seen it stretched tight and pulled tight, had kerosene poured on it, lit on fire, and held between 2 trucks, and it took, I think it was 15 minutes for it to break, for it to finally burn through and break. So it's a really strong rope. Now the next rope here is it's a nylon twisted rope. This is 3/4 inch, and it's another very strong rope. It's one of the strongest general use fibers. Nylon is for rope, and it's used in many facets. You have nylon in fabrics, clothing, sew things together to hold it. It's really strong and it holds up well. It doesn't rot, it doesn't mildew, and it's resistant to a lot of chemicals. So you can, it's probably set to acid, I would say. You know, you can pour gas and oil on this and it won't deteriorate very quickly. It's real smooth on the hands, not unlike the manila rope, so you can grab it real easy. Also, one thing about it is it's being smooth, it'll slip in your hands very easily. So if you're grabbing hold of something jerks on it real quick, it'll slide through your hands and burn your hands in a heartbeat. Is that right there? You can, the oils in your hands can penetrate that rope, and it seems like it grips a little bit better. This, being chemical resistant, it just makes oil in your hands. It makes it very slippery. This does also knot very well, the same as the manila rope. It's a lot more flexible, so you can tie a whole bunch of little knots together. It's a pretty good rope, I'd say. I've used it in a lot of different facets as far as lifting things and pulling on things. You can stick this between two trucks and it'll hold good, pull trees over, and pull boats with it. It's also, this is a good boating rope. I've seen this used in boating because it doesn't rot and mildew if you get wet, and it won't break and fall apart. Any questions on this?
How much of a load will it take?
This will take a load, the 3/4 inch string right here will take a load of 870 pounds. So if you held this rope, just so you know what a workload is, if you held this rope and put up 870 pounds on it, it won't break. Now, in most any industry and standards, there's a 5 times safety factor, anywhere from 5 to 2 times safety factor, which is they rate it 5 times less than its actual safety factor. So, in actuality, you can multiply 870 by 5, and you would still probably be able to lift that much with that rope, but you're exceeding the safety factor.
How about that rope stretching? Is that
It's a very low stretch rope. It will stretch a little bit, but not a lot. Nylon's not a real high stretch fabric. It will, but when you can take, like your nylon string and you can pull it, it'll stretch for ways. But the reason for the twisting and braiding of the rope is that the more fibers you have, the more it's twisted, the less it'll pull and stretch. If you just had 2 of those nylon fibers, you can pull it more than that piece right there. Now for the next rope, I'm going to need a volunteer to show a couple different things. Linda, would you stand up, please?
Will that suit me?
Okay, you stand over there. And, now this is the basic lariat. Now what I'm going to need you to do is when I say go,
run across the
running across the room. No, I'm just.
Are you good at
you're gonna have to?
I'm just
You got your helmet with horns on it.
No, I'm a healer. Actually, that's what I used to catch my wife because she wouldn't talk to me. That's the only thing I could get her to stop her. Now this, I'm sure you've seen this at the lab. This, you can go, it's a bulk issue and find this stuff. You can go to lab stores. Or you can go to building 512. This is plainly known as truck rope. Because you see these transportation trucks driving all over the place, and you see their loads tied down with this type of rope, usually. This particular rope is a 5/8. It holds a 720-pound workload. It's really good for tying. I mean, you can tie knots, flip around, and pull it out, and it'll snap right back to where it was before. It's great for, as I say, when they call it truck rope, it's great for lashing down things, throwing over. You can stretch it somewhat. You can pull a real tight stretch on it, and it'll bounce right back. It'll bounce back rather quickly sometimes if you stretch it too much. The good thing about this is it's really lightweight. I mean, for this small amount, it's got to be only just a few ounces or so for this length. And it's really strong. Another good thing is using it around trucks and tying things down. You'll find oil, chemicals, things like that sometimes loads are associated with on trucks or whatever. And it's really resistant to gasoline, oil, chemicals, rain, and this also is approved by the CHP for lashing down loads on California highways.
Did you say what it was made of? Nylon or kind of material?
This rope right here, I'm not sure what it's made of. I couldn't find the complete characteristics of it, but it's like I think it's one of the, I lost the word now.
Synthetic?
It is a synthetic. It's not a naturally occurring fiber like the manila rope is. It's a synthetic. It's not nylon. It's like it's in like the lycra family or something like that, or the like Dacron family.
Polyester?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to get back to you. I'm still looking for some of that information. I'd have to get back to you on that. But I know where I can find it. Any questions on the truck route?
What's the red stripes through it? Is that a different
Well,
fiber?
one of the things in rope, this right here, if you'll start seeing it fray, you start seeing these orange fibers fraying on mostly on a rope. You see a large amount of fraying. They'll tell you to get rid of it. Like on some of your lifting straps and things like that, when the fibers start to fray, they sew in a red fiber underneath the outer fiber. And a rule of thumb is when you see red, you're dead. So if you see the orange fiber starting to fray, that's a possibility of compromising your safety. Any questions? More questions on this?
So you mean that on that one, since we can see the orange or red, that it's no longer useful to you?
No, this is, I would say, in my opinion, in using this rope, when you start to see this orange fiber fraying,
So it's not
or
just seeing the orange,
yeah.
it's fraying on the orange.
And I think this, if I'm not mistaken, being CHP approved, this is also an identifying mark, so that if a police officer is driving down the road and he sees the guy have a piece of black rope and it doesn't have this orange stuff in there, he says, wait, well, that's not CHP approved. So the guy might be in trouble and you could pull him over. But you guys aren't sharing the rope, so I'm going to put this over here on this side.
Let that be a lesson to
I
you.
don't think they sell this one very different.
This particular rope is 5/8 twisted cotton rope. This is a naturally occurring fiber rope. It's a little bit less workload. It's 300 pounds workload. It does resist the sunlight well, it does resist heat well. You can light this stuff on fire and it's like a wick, it'll burn real slow. You'll see sometimes see people burning the ends on it. But it's very little stretch. I can hardly pull this rope and stretch it at all. Yeah, it doesn't, good for hanging people. That's what I also use this rope for. My wife keeps that around just in case I get out of line. It's real smooth, easy to handle. This will also burn your hands if you let it slide through real quick. It does absorb oil in your hands and water, so there is possible degradation of the fibers after a period of time from chemicals. This also knots real well. A rope like this, you can make a lasso out of if you need it. This is good for livestock leads. You'll see this kids pulling around their bulls and cows and sheep at the fairs. And any questions on this? I used to have this stuff hanging in the backyard. This is the rope swing in the backyard right here. Until I broke it.
What, you the load limit?
Yes, I did.
What is this white piece inside of here? You know.
That's, no, that's part of the inner fibers. I'm sure if you pull apart different types of rope, you'll find different fibers on the inside. And that right there would probably indicate that the rope's fraying too much. If you get down to that point, instead of seeing red, maybe you see white. If you call a lot of rope manufacturers and ask them a lot of questions, it's really hard to get straight answers from people. They'll say, I'll get back to you. I'll get that information for you, you know, and the follow-ups on them are really hard. I searched the web for a lot of different information on ropes, and I got mostly manufacturers. And I would call the people, and they'd say, I'd ask them a few questions. They'd say, well, you have to call, talk to the people you bought it from. If you go to the information counter at Orchard Supply, they'll go,
I should have.
Yeah,
I should
I
have
don't know.
seen
right.
I just have a list of what kind of ropes we have. So I think the best place, I think, to get information on ropes would probably be an encyclopedia. There's probably federal specifications. There are ropes that meet federal specifications, and you probably have to look up federal specifications, which would be a long process. But, or go to your local library. That would be the best place. But seeing my hours at work, I wasn't able to access the local library. I tried the web, and the little time I spent on it, I had some success, so I'm sure if a person spent a little more time, they could find out a little bit more than I did myself. I use this rope. I use the nylon twisted rope at work a lot of times for lifting loads, lowering loads where we can't use lifting devices such as come along, chain balls, things like that. It comes in handy. You can take this stuff and throw 2 wraps around a piece of pipe, and or 3 wraps, and if you're lowering something down, the binding strength of this is one guy can hold a 400-pound valve by himself. He can just ease off a little bit, and it'll slip and slip and slip and go down. So, just the rope comes in a lot of different sizes and uses. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with this stuff. A person could invest many, many hours and months and weeks, and you could probably give a whole course on all the different types of rope, what their uses are, and a full year, and still not cover what all their uses are for. Now I got a little question for everybody, and hopefully you were paying attention. Now let's say everybody was in Galveston, Texas. It's mid-July. It's about 101 degrees out. Humidity is about 98%. I have a 1-ton block of concrete that I want to pick up and hold and let sit there for about a month. Can anyone tell me what rope they might choose to use?
For 1 ton?
1-ton block of concrete.
That one, I would choose that one, because it wouldn't rot, but I forget if it can hold the weight. I don't remember.
Well, the manila rope has a workload of 972 pounds. Now, the tricky part to that question is that when I showed you this little trick right here, what that called is more times you go up and down, see, just the workload is this right here. Now, if I do this right here, that workload is double. If I do this right here, that workload is quadruple. So if you've ever seen some of the cranes out here, how the main line comes out, it goes down, goes around to the block or the hook, and then it comes back up, goes back down, comes back up, goes down, back down. That steel wire is only rated for a certain poundage, but by going through that process of around and around, it multiplies the factor of the lifting load. So that was a trick question. That wasn't fair, but just to give you a little information on what you can do with rope. Okay, now I'd like to ask you guys a few questions. What do you think it's necessary to pick the proper rope for the proper application.
What's the weight?
Weight, yeah, that's one reason.
The environment, if it's gonna be chemicals or.
That's good, yeah, that's another one. Now, you can choose many different ropes for the same application. Sometimes it's also a preference. Like someone might not want to use a vanilla rope because they say, "Ooh, I don't like that stuff on my hands." Or they might use the nylon rope. This stuff right here, you can light it on fire, and it'll drip, burn like crazy. It stinks, puts off black smoke, and it'll burn away. So, if you're in an environment where, let's say you're going to hold something up and you're going to be using a cutting torch, maybe it's not a good idea to use this rope because it burns very easily. I've seen quite a few accidents in the construction industry using different ropes like this, and it's not a pretty sight. And so just your choice and preference and experience of using ropes helps a lot in the choice of your rope that you want to use for your different applications. So that kind of covers what would happen if you don't pick the right rope. You make a trip to medical, and I don't know if anybody here has been to medical, but I don't like to go to that place. Anybody name two types of rope?
Non-twist rope, the truck rope,
Yeah, that's a good one.
cotton,
Three-strand vanilla.
three-strand rope,
Alan, can you give me two types of rope?
vanilla, and fiber patch.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Does anybody know where you can buy rope or get rope?
Horse support. We can call you,
Ropes
right?
are us.
Ropes are us. Here on the
Good place
lab.
to get it right here at the lab,
Yeah.
at Building 512. Bulk issue over at Building 411. They sell large quantities of rope. Does anybody have any idea where we can find the information we need on rope, to say the workload, the characteristics, the advantages, the disadvantages?
The web?
Web is where it gets
Other
placed.
video I can send.
Library.
A lot of times if you call a manufacturer and ask for a technical position, not just ask the manufacturer, and tell them that you're giving a class on safety and whatnot, they may give you some information on the road.
Yeah, I called and the guy said, I'll get right back with you. And so,
By law, he has to be back to you.
yeah, well, I'm not afforded in the trade that I work out here, I'm not afforded to sit by a phone, so, and you give people on the outside of your page, remembering how to call, and they just kind of go, what the heck is this voice doing talking to me? And so what I have to do is I have to refer all questions to my supervisor, so through that, you lose something. The more people you have to deal with, the more middle people, it loses something in the translation. So somewhat I have a disadvantage in that way. So a lot of times I have to research stuff out myself. I have to take my own time off-site and do my own work, or come over here to the library and try to do that if I'm afforded the time. Are there any more questions? Anyone would like to know anything they might not know?
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned that was approved by the Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
What about the use of manila ropes on trucks for tying down loads?
Now this is the only one that I found that was approved by the CHP.
Okay.
I'm sure this is one of the the 5 ropes that I chose. This one just happened to be approved by the CHP.
Because I see straps, and I see those ropes on trucks,
Uh-huh.
and I don't see so much manila. And I just wonder, because
Yeah, I think Manila repeated, because this is a real vibrant rope. It's got a lot of memory to it.
Mhm.
So if you stretch it out, if you try to stretch it, it comes right back to where it's supposed to be. It doesn't.
probably resist weather deterioration
It
too.
resists weather. Now this particular rope right here, I think the material it's made out of is almost like it reminds me of an ABS fiber or a PVC type
Okay.
fiber. So this right here, I've seen it degrade in sunlight after a period of time. It gets brittle, it gets hard. But, you know, it's kind of funny, it won't, some of the UVs will bother it, but, you know, you can spill gasoline, kerosene, diesel oil, and all kinds of stuff all over it, and it won't bother it. It'll stay with the rope, because you can't ring, this stuff doesn't ring out very well. It just gets intrinsic, entrained in the fibers here, and you grab it, and it's just full of oil. But it's still good. And that's your lesson for